1,000 years ago, after the small kings were slowly amalgamated by the big three called the Chera Chola, the Pandyas, and the Pallavas, there was an introduction of a something like today's new education policy, NEP of 2020, was introduced 1,000 years back by the Vedic people who had started taking control of the Chola, Chera, Pandya, and the Pallava kings. That introduction led to concepts like Brahmana came from the head of the Lord, Kshatriya came from the shoulder of the Lord, the Baniya came from the stomach of the Lord or the knee of the Lord, and the Shudra came from the legs of the Lord. The Panchama came from the dust of the legs of the Shudra. So this kind of a concept was introduced, and education was given only to the Brahmins, and the Kshatriyas, they learned martial arts, warfare, and very little bit of education for them to understand how to rule. The major components, almost 94 to 95 percentage of the population, were called Shudras or Panchamas, who were asked to do their ancestral professions. They were asked to do farming and agriculture related works, or they were daily workers. So this kind of a new education policy alienated and removed education from the common people, from the masses, for a society which was historically great in the Indus Valley, in the Harappan civilization, in the Kirati civilization, was suddenly transformed into a dark society with no education, no arts and crafts, no literature, nothing of the sort. If we search for historical proofs from since 2600 years from the time of Kirati, we will see that we have given great books, great literatures on those days. After that, from 10th century, we can only see some Bhakti literature and nothing else. The Bhakti literature in Tamil is also again, I would say, like today's Hindi Theriyadu Poda. Same way, it was Samaskritam Theriyadu Poda. Will our gods not understand our language? And that is why the Alvar and the Nayanmar, they were irritated, agitated with the imposition of Sanskrit and wrote lots of poetry who Perumal, Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva in our own language, Tamil. So the Bhakti literature is also a stand against imposition of culture, imposition of language, and imposition of a certain Aryan Vedic practice. So this is how we should see Bhakti literature. Whenever there is a question, when we say this is Dravida land, when we say this is Periyar's land, when we say this is the land of social justice, many right-wing politicians and right-wing thinkers have a question. They say, is it not Alvar and Nayanmar's land? Yes, Alvar and Nayanmar also have a small part of the total history. When you have traveled down almost 3000 years, the Alvar and Nayanmar have a small part in the travel of Tamil literature. There is no doubt about it. But when we talk about Tamil literature, we should start with Tolkappiyam, we should then come to Sangam literature, then we should come to Tirukkural, where there is no reference to any religion or a religious cult or a religious following or any Vedic practices. One of the world's best books, translated into many languages the world over, Tirukkural or Thiruvalluvar, poet saint Thiruvalluvar, is to be celebrated as a great man world over for his teachings about everything a human being needs in life. So when we talk about Tirukkural, then we come to Bhakti literature in the 10th century. Without talking about the past 3000-year-old literature and history, we cannot suddenly start the Tamil history or the Dravidian history from Bhakti literature. That is actually a right-wing thought, and we need not subscribe to that thought. We should be very clear what was there in Tolkappiyam, what was there in Sangam literature, what was there in Tirukkural, and then we should come to the Bhakti literature. But unfortunately, the right-wing people, they don't want us to learn anything about the past Tolkappiyam, Tirukkural or Sangam literature. They only start Tamil history from Bhakti literature. So coming to Bhakti literature, the Bhakti literature started because of a Varnam-based society. They came with the Vedic texts. That is it's like a joke. What happened was when the Vedic people came with their texts to our land. We had lots of literature, we had lots of lands, we had lands, we were cultivating our lands and we were the rulers. They came and told us, okay, we have Vedic texts, please sit with us, close your eyes and start praying. We closed our eyes, started praying, we lost our education, we lost our lands, they took away our education, they took away our lands. Both these things happened all over in southern India. In Tamil Nadu also, we have ample examples of how it happened. Later on, what we had, they gave us Manuniti, they gave us Varnashram, and they documented our knowledge like yoga, for example, which was documented in Sanskrit. And when we stopped learning, we were not able, it was all oral traditions. Most of our traditions like Siddha or Yoga were all oral traditions. But oral traditions, when you lose your education, when you lose the oral tradition from being transferred from one generation to another generation, what happened was there was a discontinuity, and people who documented it in their own language and claimed it was theirs. This is what happened to many traditions in southern India, like Ayurveda or Yoga and Siddha. So all these things were documented by them. Thank God they're still in Tamil, and we saved the Siddha texts from the clutches of the Vedic people.